bit risky, shall we say.
So I've actually started to become a bit of a fan of early picks to Sylas. I know you can try and tailor your composition on OMG's side so you don't give it big ultimates across, but it's actually incredibly hard to do, especially when you want like engage and these kind of things. Like a lot of those ultimates still work very well with the Sylas, and I think Sylas is incredibly hard at the moment to actually bully out of the lane. Because the durability patch, he works out great. The nerf to his grievous wounds means he's even harder to deal with in team fights. And because team fights tend to last longer, he's actually getting more Kingslayers off, which means he's getting even more value and uptime in fights. So I think Sylas is actually rising up as an incredibly strong pick, but also something you really don't want to give across to Creme.
I was about to say, I was like, oh my god, if he picks up the Zed, I'm going to be so happy. But
that would have been so good. I was like, oh yeah, but
yeah, we never talk about hovers, but they do go with the Ahri.
I'm not actually a fan of the Ahri. The reason that we started to see Sylas come into the meta a little bit was as an answer into Ahri, because Ahri's early game damage isn't actually there to try and push the Sylas out of lane. Like, she's got some used to it, but between Kingslayers and the ability to get on top of the Ahri with the Absconded Duct, you can trade relatively well as the Sylas in lane. So I'm surprised to see Creme opt in towards the Ahri. I thought we might see something a little bit different coming out from him, but yeah, it just means that in theory Shanks should have an even easier time in the mid lane here.
In theory. We'll always, wait to see if that theory is proven or disproven, as we do see the Jinx Nautilus kind of being locked in. And I'm a little sad right now, because I won't lie, with 12-12 coming in, we are starting to see teams default back to the ADC handshake of Jinx, Aphelios, right back down into that bot side. And it's just, I get it, they're strong, you want big team fight AD carries. It just makes me a little sad, Dagda. Just a little sad.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly thought we'd get to see the Senna coming through here for Smlz. I think it's just incredibly strong at the moment, especially if you're going to play something like the Sylas. Having these healing capabilities just makes it incredibly strong, and I think that's probably the direction that we're going to see a lot of this patch go, is towards these more healing orientated picks, but not so much in the LPL at the moment, as this is looking pretty much like a very 12-11 draft, like what we've kind of been stock standard, apart from the Thresh, who's just there to offer a little bit of safety from the Nautilus in this matchup.
Yeah, it becomes a hook champion kind of setup there. If the Nautilus does go in on top of your AD carry, you have the Lantern, of course you have the Flay, and your own hook engage as well. Just covers a lot of very good bases for something like the Aphelios and gives you a lot of versatility. Now we come back into the picks and bans, and more so the ban phase. The Gwen going to be banned away. The Trundle, which was hovered earlier there by OMG, is actually going to be banned by WE as well. So we're seeing a little bit of a different priority here. OMG saying, look, we want to try and take BiuBiu off of things that maybe he can have agency against Shanji with, and of course on the other side WE saying we want to give Beishang as good of a matchup as we possibly can.
Yeah, I'd love to see Aki going back towards something like the Lee Sin here in that jungle matchup, because I think Aki's always worked best when he's on something that can be very proactive in the early stages, like Lee Sin, the Vi, these kind of things, because it just means that OMG are able to get off the ground running as early as possible. And this is a team that definitely likes to snowball, because a lot of their game plan in the mid game in general is like sending Creme and Shanji out to push sides and then 5-man mid very, very quickly. But that's hard to do when you don't have that early advantage. And because their macro is kind of working off of a more base level or a basic level, they need this kind of snowballing to get themselves up.
The snowball won't be getting the Glacial Prison, so more Freljordian champions being banned away, as the Sejuani is the final ban here for Team WE. And now OMG, I imagine you'd want to be taking your jungle here and then leaving the counter pick for Shanji in that top side, like we talked about in our pre-game. Shanji has very much been a focal point for this side, and Aki going to go back to the Lee Sin. Something every single jungler in any single league in the world needs to be able to play, and it's going to be good for him. It's going to be good if he can get that 2v2 going in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very strong 2v2, but as you said, I think Aki just works better on these kind of aggressive early game junglers. And I'm curious to see what WE are going to go for here. This is a pick that we haven't seen for a little while, but Volibear, I think, something we see a lot over in LEC and even the LCS, but incredibly strong on this patch and can do really well against the Lee Sin. And I wouldn't be surprised to see something like a Gangplank here for BiuBiu as well, because I think he can cause a lot of issues for the way OMG want to function. Like with the Aphelios trying to push forward, you have range here on WE side if you want to, but making life very uncomfortable for the Aphelios with the Cannon Barrage and team fights is going to be great.
Yeah, and it's exactly as you say. They are going to take your logic and completely agree with it. Now, OMG, you've got to figure out how you want to round out this composition. Do you go for lane prowess in the top lane for Shanji, or do you try and go for that again, you know, kind of disruptor, team fight centric kind of carry? Right now, they're going for the Aatrox. Hasn't been locked in just yet, but can do a little bit of both if given the right resources, and they're going to lock it in.
What? We don't get the Azir top? Man, this is
no
crazy.
Anivia? What's happening, man? What happened to our meta?
No, I do like this from Shanji. In general, with the nerf to Grievous Wounds, Aatrox actually becomes quite strong. And as well, because he tends to be able to land the extended Q on towards Gangplank and get some decent trades, it means that you don't actually get pushed out of this lane too bad. Even having the healing, at least the sustain built into his passive, makes things a lot easier for Shanji in this lane as well. And it gives you 2 lanes now in OMG that you can play, or even 3 lanes honestly in OMG, you can play around pretty nicely. Like play through mid jungle, lean up top side, maybe look for a potential dive. The obvious choice of going and trying to help out the Aphelios in the bot lane. So there's a lot that you can work with here now on OMG side.
Yeah, well, we got OMG setting themselves up for strong laning phases. Of course, Team WE not to be outdone. This Sylas early pick, that's where my focus is going to be. You pick it first. You've got yourself a decent matchup in mid with the Ahri. And honestly, some really decent ultimates to choose from as well. You've got yourself the Lee Sin kick, the Ahri Spirit Rush as well is a very powerful tool. And even the tankiness as well if you steal away the Aatrox as well. There's plenty of options available to you to pick and choose when you need and what you need in particular fights. Yeah,
and I think that's the nice thing here is that you never really get to have a composition that completely takes away useful ultimates. As you say, the Lee Sin kick, pretty useful. Ahri, I think, is going to be the main takeaway for Shanks here. Just having that many dashes in your kit is fantastic, and each one of those dashes getting to proc your passive as well as the Sylas always works out super nicely. So I imagine he'll be trying to take that. The box can be a little bit difficult for Shanks to utilize just because you have to get really good positioning, but it can do a lot of damage if you're able to get that positioning right.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. We are going to jump onto the Rift for game 1 of this best of 3. WE still hunting for a first series win. It's been a hell of a long time for them, but OMG still looking to try and maybe get to the halfway point with a very respectful scoreline. Very much a different story for OMG if they go into the halfway point 4-4 versus 3-5. But both teams very aware that they don't want to try and give away the ghost right at the start of the game. So we're just going to see them fan out and look for a very standard 5-point setup.
Yeah, nothing too fancy, especially when you look across the WE side. I mean, late game scaling your Gangplank and your Jinx, you want to just try and take this nice and slowly in the early stages and then utilize the fact that you've got good engage coming through from heal later. Probably going to be saying the same thing for Shanks at those later points as well, because he can take the Ahri dash and help close the distance very easily. So for WE, take it nice and slow. For OMG, you're definitely more mid-game focused here. Yes, you've got some scaling with the Aphelios, but the rest of your squad hits hard off of 1 to 2 items, and I expect that's where we're going to see them really try and play in towards that mid-game spike.
I know you mentioned very quickly earlier that the Sylas going to be difficult to take the Thresh box to make it work. Does have 100% AP scaling though. So,
oh, it's absurd. The damage off of that is insane. It's just a case of like, how do you try and put
I was going to say, how do you make it work?
Yeah.
It's all good, but if no one hits it,
leave
you
a trail of cookies just into the edge of it and go like, please, come on, you could do it. But it's a case of like, I've gone abduct in, and then you try and put the box down, and maybe if you get onto Abel, there is a position where you can try and use that box to like keep Abel close to you, even if he does end up getting lanterned, takes a whole chunk of damage off of it. But it's just super hard to actually get that use out of it. And I think when there's a lot of peel on OMG's side for Abel, I think your best bet is still to go towards some Creme's ultimate to just have as many opportunities to get that back on Thresh.
Well, Flash has to be burned there. Shanks did nearly land the abscond abduct and gets himself back in a way. So Creme, he's had a very, up and down kind of split. Some games he's looking absolutely fantastic. Others he does kind of get a little bit too overzealous, not respecting the paths that could end up coming out. And this is the thing, is that, like you mentioned, the Volibear exceptionally strong. This is one of the things the Volibear, even back when he was meta a couple of patches ago, was that he was so good at, was those early level 1 to 3 ganks, really, that you can kind of pull off because he's got so much in his kit to be able to survive and also to CC.
And it doesn't even cost him that much in the grand scheme of things, because he just leans through mid. It's just transitional gank. He wanted to go to the bot side of the map regardless, because he wanted to farm up. So it'll cost him a couple of seconds, but nothing too major. Especially because, as you can see, he finishes his Raptors. Should be there to go straight towards the Scuttle Crab if he wants, but with Smlz going for the cheeky reset to get his cool nice and early, he's just got to wait for the bot lane push to come back through before he goes for that Scuttle Crab.
See if he's able to make anything else work. The big thing we always notice that, yes, Creme did lose his flash. That's unfortunate for OMG. But if Beishang never comes back towards mid, that's where this kind of gets a little bit unfortunate. You need to be putting down the pressure, really kind of making sure that you're getting as much of an advantage as possible. But it looks like he's not going to go towards mid. This time around, though, he's just going to try and maybe make something work at this bot side, because the wave is pushing in. But Abel and Cold, they sense something is awry.
Yeah, I think heal is in the wrong spot here, although Abel...
Ooh. Haven't got it just yet, but don't forget, Beishang has not revealed his position as of right now. Still has flash. Cold. He's thinking about it. He walks in. He's going to get caught up. Flashed it on top of it. He's going to get taken down. That's going to be enough for a first blood. WE on the board. Very good patience from Beishang.
And really good understanding from Beishang about how the bottom lane was going to work there. Abel needed to crash that wave so he could reset and try and match the cull from Smlz, or at least match the early reset that came through from the Jinx. But because of that, had to play up aggressive in the lane to try and push it. So Beishang just reads it well and manages to be able to get into position to find that kill. So really nice job from the WE jungler.
Really well played. And again, this is a common theme we're seeing with WE's play. They do have very good plays in the start. Laning phase has never really been that big of an issue unless it's been against some of the much bigger and badder teams in our league. Against someone like OMG and even RA last week, this is something they have done consistently well. The problem is that they need to be able to try and stick it. They need to try and transition that pressure and that advantage into more advantages around the map. You can already see Smlz going for 2 backs already. Got himself his High Noon Quiver alongside that Cole. So really trying to push the fact that I just saw double Cole there for a second Abel. Yeah. I was like, no way, no way.
I didn't even know that was possible.
I don't think it is. I don't think it actually double stacks at all. But Cole's gonna have to try and maybe help out Creme here, because we talked about not having a flash. He gets hooked up. He will not get himself away. His heal does land the auto attack, and that's another good kill for WE.
And this is really good stuff from WE. Like, I love the fact that Beishang is being this proactive early. I was about to say, if Beishang doesn't actually go back towards mid lane, he is definitely not worth his great assault. But honestly, this has just been such a strong early game from Beishang. Great gank, understanding of how to get into path onto the bot side. Good repeat gank mid, even having heal in tow. And this is how you should be playing Volibear. Like, you fail off so hard come the late game. So you need to get the ball rolling nice and early. And Beishang's done just that.
Abel with the Gravitum, looking to try and maybe set something up for his team, but it's a little bit difficult right now. Never mind, I'm going to say that. He's going to see him get him to proc off straight away. There's a hook down onto heal, but the Cannon Barrage is great. Abel just about flashes himself away, but look at Smlz. He's almost got Aki. Aki just sidesteps away, and that's going to be a 1-for-0. But WE, they almost got it back, and OMG had to commit a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Abel now going to have to reset, so he's going to miss out on this massive wave. Although, I actually say that he's going to stick around, but I don't know if that opens up the opportunity for Smlz to try and go for something on the bot side. Yeah, this is what I was worried about. Beishang can get in here super easily.
Yeah, he's going to be able to do it as well. You can see him now. He's going to jump in. Tower dead. Cold to follow. Double kill for Beishang. WE very much punishing it. Honestly, a little bit of a greedy OMG.
Yeah, but great pathing again from Beishang. Like, he ends up stealing away the Raptors on the top side from Aki. Path back down towards the bot lane, because he knows that chances are Aki's going to try and make something happen on the bot lane. So he's there to support Smlz on the dive. Now 2-0-2 on the Volibear. You're getting another assist for the Jinx. 2 turret plates as well. Like, Smlz is now in a great spot. And one of the biggest gripes I've had with Smlz is his position and willingness to play aggressive on these short-range AD carries. But Jinx isn't that. And in this sort of composition, he should be fine to go aggressive.
Should be fine. You can see Cold now trying to maybe make something work, but Honestly, this is OMG looking a little bit flabbergasted. They're not really quite sure where they want to go. I will say Aki did pick up the first jungle and is immediately available for the spawn of the first Rift Herald, so should be able to start that one up and get that for his team. So in terms of neutral objectives, it's still okay for OMG, but you're starting to fall significantly behind. 2.5 or 2 and a little bit thousand golds just, you know, kind of falling to the wayside. And this Volibear 2-0-2, the catalyst of everything that's gone right for the side of WE, is really starting to get to a very powerful point.
Yeah, I'm curious to see now what the game plan is for Beishang, because you need to try and help out, help out at least cross map for this Rift Herald that's actually about to be placed by Aki in this top side immediately. So BiuBiu might be in trouble.
Might be in trouble, but he's still a Gangplank. Won't have Cannon Barrage just yet. Beishang back down in the bot lane, but doesn't have his ultimate, as they wait to try and really make the point now that Abel and Cold... Oh, beautifully done by Heal. The hook does come in. He does end up flashing in to try and get the auto attack to stun him up, but at the end of it all, you still get the kill, and you're losing so much here as Abel. You're already so far behind it, you're just losing even more.
Yeah, I mean, Abel is completely out of this. And unfortunately for OMG, Aki did go towards the Lee Sin early and hasn't been able to find the impact he wants because the Volibear just matches him so well.
Oh, he's going to have to kick in there. I knew it. He's going to have to go for it. But now Beishang in a lot of trouble. The Ignite ticking, and he's getting taken out. A little bit too far forward. Shanks doesn't have the mana to really take this 2v1. And that's just a little bit of a mistake from from WE.
Yeah, I mean, Shanks, no mana, no access to the ultimate. I was way back underneath the tower, so Beishang getting a little bit antsy, thinking that he had the opportunity. But this is what we're talking about with WE, is that they have these early leads, but slowly these mistakes start to slip through, where it's just one extra go or a bit of goal going across here because somebody messed up and died, or they're in the wrong place the wrong time. So I want to see a smoother transition from WE into the mid game.
Smoother transition, but again, like, it's 2,000 gold lead. They don't have the Rift Heralds. We might see Heal thought about it, but decided against it in the end of it. Or maybe he just messed it up. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and said he decided that. But let's have a look at the replay here. And again, just perfectly timed, perfectly set up. Heal, really, really well done from him.
Yeah, really nice job from Heal to actually get these. And it's nice to see Heal doing well on this roster. Well, relatively well on this roster, because this is the guy that's been bounced around a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw him pop up in IG initially after being promoted from their youth squad. We're like, oh, this guy maybe could do pretty well, but never really got his chance. Then he moved across to Rogue Warriors, got bounced out of that over towards Victory 5 for a little bit when he was still re-heal. Then he ends up coming on to WE, so he feels like he hasn't really found a home since he left IG, and it's nice to see him doing better. But it still feels like he's got a lot to learn when it comes to the support role, despite the fact that we've seen him pop up in LPL a few times.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like you said, good positive plays, but still a bit to go. And honestly, you know, he might be feeling good about this particular play, but you're still 0-5 on Team WE. You need to make sure that you're getting as much as you possibly can. And with the trade of towers right now, yes, you get bot lane tier 1, but you've actually taken away tier 1 in mid. Such a powerful tower to have because it opens up the map so much. We hear it talked about all the time in every single league of just how much darker your map becomes if your mid lane tier 1 gets taken so early.
Yeah, it does depend on the matchup and that kind of stuff, but Shanji?
Yeah, he might be dead here. He does flash. Puts himself between his turret and the wall, but Beishang was very much ready to go for that one there. And honestly, this is WE again, just very smart macro play, kind of putting Smlz, their strongest player right now, into position to be able to snowball.
Yeah, I mean, Smlz has an item and a half already, and Abel hasn't even completed his first item. Even looking at the CS that they got from the cull shows how early Smlz was able to pick up that cull and how big of an advantage he's now gotten from it. So Smlz has everything that he needs to carry this game. BiuBiu has the cannon barrage to help keep him safe. You've got the opportunity there for Heal and Shanks to try and keep him safe. The only threat for him realistically is Creme, and Creme's found him.
Oh, Creme nearly found him. He did have cleanse available to himself, but he does lose his flash. And this is, again, the small little moments that we talk about when we say, WE, we really want you to do well. We are rooting for you in all ways, but it just feels like they get those little tiny mistakes, poor recall positions, not respecting the fact that people could be rotating up to you. Those little things do add up in the grand scheme of it. So you have to be aware that now with the next Rift Herald spawning in a minute 20, Smlz doesn't have flash. That's a big cooldown now, no longer there for what could potentially be a big fight.
I mean, I don't think we'll have anything too untoward at the next dragon. I feel like from WE's side, you are okay to give that if you want to just continue stacking up gold on towards Smlz, even putting pressure in towards the mid lane. I think the third dragon the third dragon for OMG would be more so where we actually see the big fights kick off, but I don't know, we've seen kind of WE go for these fights regardless, and as you say, that flash could be the difference maker.
It really could, and honestly, the gold lead right now is just Smlz over Able. So if Smlz dies, there is no gold lead. It's a straight up, you're just at a disadvantage right there. And you can see Ahri looking to try and maybe make something work on the flip side of this. They will be able to get Shanji underneath the tower. He's tanking up a little bit. There's going to be the cannon barrage, but a good flash away. But the Sonic Wave lands on the backside of this one. Shanji, though, taking a little bit too much damage. You have to fully commit to it. And in a 1v2, you get a 2 kills for 1. WE will take that bargain any day.
I mean, that was just such an overcommit from OMG on that bottom side. You were never going to be able to get that easy kill. Even Ahri messing up the Dragon's Rage means that you don't actually get BiuBiu out from underneath the tower. And everyone ends up tanking up so much damage. And in that, BiuBiu ends up getting the kill. And you've lost your top tower as well to Smlz, who's now got 2 items above Able, who still hasn't completed his mythic.
Yeah, and again, this is great play for the side of WE. OMG tried to make something work. You know, it wasn't really going to be able to work on the top side whatsoever, but let's have a look at the replay here, because again, BiuBiu is still a Gangplank. He clears this wave so quickly that Shanji just takes too much turret damage.
Yeah, I mean, Ahri not being able to kick BiuBiu out from underneath the tower was a big issue. And as you say, Shanji just not being able to get out from underneath the tower because of the cannon barrage. Honestly, same kind of happening here with Ahri, but I think the big one there is the fact that BiuBiu was able to clear out the wave right as that dive happened. So there isn't a wave really there to try and tank the turret as you set up. So everything has to be rushed then by OMG, and they end up messing up on the execution.
Well, next dragon spawning in 23 seconds. Still don't have a flash on Smlz, but you do have a Rift Herald here in the back pocket of Beishang, as they maybe look to try and take him out. So will not be able to land the death sentence there, but still controlling the area for now. WE starting to move forward. You gotta be careful with these orbs of deception. A flash in though, straight away. You cannot click the lantern if you're CC'd for days. As we can see, Shanks now looking for a reset on that stolen Spirit Rush. Keep pushing himself forward. Beishang wants a little part of it as well, as Shanji goes down. And honestly, this is WE kind of just owning OMG.
Absolutely destroying on the bottom side of the map, and now snowballing completely out of control. That's the Rift Herald going to go down in mid, so they should crack open the last outer turret for OMG, and they've even got the dragon to fall back for. Like, this is so well orchestrated by WE, and I mean, this feels like a very different style from them, where they've actually got Smlz on these longer range AD carries. He's looking relatively comfortable to step up and try and play in these fights, but honestly, that was just Shanks and Beishang absolutely decimating OMG.
It really was. I will say, though, they haven't taken the dragon just yet. There are TPs available here for Shanji, should he want to go for it. Beishang is on the dragon right now, but they don't really have vision control. They're going to have to be very careful with how they kind of approach this. I think the honest answer is they're not going to. That being said, though, Creme going to take a barrel to the face. Immediately, the Everfrost has to come out. He's going to have to try and Spirit Rush away. The dragon hasn't gone down just yet, as Able finally joins his team. Flash away by Cold, as finally WE secure the dragon. We can see Creme going in with the Spirit Rush, as Shanji tries to make some work happen. He takes down Smlz. That's the big carry. That's the gold lead, and you might have overstayed your welcome just a little bit. Beishang goes golden just to delay the inevitable. Shanji trying to get the movement speed back as he picks up 2 kills. And WE, they still get the dragon. They still trade back equally, but this is not exactly favorable for you.
No, the fact that you got that shutdown going over towards Shanji off the kill is going to be so nice for OMG, but it needed to be cleaner. It needed to be smoother, and we'll catch it here in the replay. Like, look at the positioning from WE. They have no front to back set up here at all. So Creme gets spotted out. Everyone starts to then separate and disperse. And the TP from Shanji is wonderful here, because he manages to slip in behind WE. And now WE are caught between a rock and a hard place. Smlz has nowhere to tank to. Shanji has direct access. Everyone leaves the Jinx completely by herself. Eventually, Beishang has to run from the top of the fight, the whole way down to the bottom of the fight, just to try and save Smlz, and nobody else is trying to help out. And this is what we're talking about with WE, is that their team fighting is super uncoordinated, and no one seems to be looking out for each other especially when Smlz is that much gold. He should be the VIP. He should be the person that's most important to protect in that fight.
Absolutely, and again, this is something that I feel like OMG are going to have to try and, continually get back at, as we can see Beishang. But Shanks going to try and catch out Creme, but Creme going to back himself away with a blast cone. But again and again, we're seeing WE, you're 4,000 gold up, you're in a really comfortable position, 2 dragons, you're stacking up a Mountain Drake, which is honestly fantastic for your composition if you look at how, Creme will want to try and burst you out, even the Aphelios as well with the Moonlight Vigil. These are players that, you want to try and survive against in terms of their initial burst, even if you do get caught. But if you end up losing those fights, if you end up giving over 2 kills over to Shanji so he gets up to his second or third item, you get yourself able a little bit of extra time to, farm up and get himself on equal footing to this Jinx, it's not going to matter that Smlz was so far ahead because it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest worry now looking at WE, is that the confidence boost that you're going to have given to OMG about getting access to the backline is going to be so much more important now. And honestly, I think it's been a good job by OMG to have the vision control there that lets like Shanji TP in, these kind of things. This should have been stuff that WE should have already cleared out. It's about establishing yourself at these objectives nice and early, but because they end up getting a little bit hypey with having the Riptail to take the early tower and get some kills, they expected that they'd just be able to breeze into the dragon. And that's a massive mistake that you can't really make.
Watch Aki. Aki on the flank of absolute days right now. He is going to try and maybe get himself around this Baron pit. It's spawning in 5 seconds, but he's already got himself around the back side of this one here, and you don't have BiuBiu, so it's going to be a 5v4. Yes, you'll have the Cannon Barrage, but he's already there. The Charm lands on the heel, who already uses the Dredge Line to get himself away. They're going to try and re-engage on top of this one here as Cole goes down. There's the kick, and it's absolutely beautiful. They catch out Smlz, finally heal, trying to see if he can do something there with BiuBiu on the backside of this one is Shanks, trying to deal with Shanji and Creme. Will back themselves away. It was a little bit too late there from OMG, but WE, they do lose Smlz. They keep everyone else alive.
It was such a nice attempt by Aki, but WE end up turning the fight before he gets into position, and Abel dies immediately. So there's no real consistent damage apart from Shanji there, and that's not enough to try and carry the fight. So WE are able to get the win. They get the tower, and WE will get away with what was so close to being a disaster for them.
Yeah, you can see the low health bars there. We're going to almost certainly have a replay on this. But honestly, it's a great call here from Beishang to immediately go in with BiuBiu's ultimate. You'll see it in the replay. He just immediately commits to saying, look, we're 4v4. We don't know where Aki is. We need to try and kill off Abel.
Yeah, and the fact that they're willing to do this when they actually don't know if this is a 4v5, but it feels like he'll, with that charm landing, that was the engage that they needed. But watch Abel on the backside of this. He instantly gets deleted by Beishang and Shanks, way too close to the fight, so Shanks can finish him off in the back line. And although Smlz goes down, Shanji's too low to try and continue the rest of the fight. And that's really your main source of damage on this engage, because Creme doesn't have anything left in the tank. Like, Ahri's not going to carry a team fight like that for you, so it had to be Shanji. But with the health bar that he had, he just wasn't quite able to do enough.
Yeah, well, Aki, seeing if he can do it again, to be perfectly honest. No cleanse this time around on Smlz, so if he does get CC'd, he's just going to die as the Dragon has spawned, and they're waiting to see if Shanks wants to try and take out that ward. But OMG not to be deterred this time around. This Cannon Barrage is back up and available here for BiuBiu, so he's not too far away from helping out his team. There we go. Cannon Barrage comes out. That's going to be the Dragon secured by OMG. Creme going to stop Shanks from really engaging on this. And if they get out with this, this is honestly a little bit of daylight robbery because they got the TP as well. BiuBiu trying to make sure that his team makes this one work, but the Gravitum just keeps everyone from really doing anything. They can't land the barrels. They're going to commit with Beishang, but he can't really go any further with this. WE, they commit so much, but they only are probably going to kill Aki.
I mean, Aki has a lot of mobility here, so he actually may just be able to get away with this now. He's just going to end up dying to the tower. But, actually, has he been hit yet?
Now he
Well,
has.
definitely has been.
Now he has.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to keep running away, but Shanks will get him, and that does delay a lot of the push there. But again, OMG, they delay the dragon stacking, and this is WE, where we're kind of looking, yes, you're ahead by 7,000 gold, but it should be looking a little bit more convincing than this.
And the fact that you're spending 30 seconds chasing down the OMG jungler means that OMG actually get their waves in order, so they can't really push up more, which is why WE are going, right, well, we got to do something with this time. Let's go towards the Baron.
Creme's already off the backside of this one here. Smlz is on the side
No
here.
cleanse.
He no cleanse, but does have flash charm. Just go wide. Abel just down to about half HP already. The Baron down to 4,000. You're going to have to try and contest this one as best you possibly can, but I don't know if you're going to be able to. Moonlight Vigil completely whiffs. Abel in the wrong position, but Shanji wants to make something happen. I don't think he can do it, and eventually he'll fall down, but at the end of it all, you end up trading 3 kills for 1. The Baron, OMG, that was just sloppy.
3 kills onto the support as well. Like, that is not worth it at all. WE get away with the Baron. They get a bunch of extra gold in their back pocket, and now they can actually start pushing in towards these lanes. But you'll see it here in the replays. He said, I mean, Abel, this just hasn't been his game at all. Completely whiffing on the Moonlight Vigil. It was an Inferno, which meant it could have done a lot of damage in the pit, but not able to get much off. Creme doing a really nice job of pestering Smlz in the pit. So then it opens up for Shanji to go forward. Smlz can't really push forward in case Creme comes over the wall to deal with him, but with that Moonlight Vigil just completely whiffing, Abel's in a terrible position where Smlz is free to hit him from the back of the pit with no real threat possibility from Creme, because Creme is too far away to actually dive onto Smlz.
You know the crazy thing is, I think Cold's death sentence pulls Beishang, or excuse me, BiuBiu out of the position where he'd get hit by the Infernum Moonlight Vigil. I think that's actually how it went down, so little bit unfortunate with the combination there, but WE honestly looking great. 10,000 gold up. Yeah, they're 2 dragons away, so they're not exactly a million miles ahead, but this Smlz carry composition is working out for them, and I gotta give major props to Shanks as well. He's really been looking fantastic on this Sylas and proving why it's such a high priority for them.
Honestly, look, I haven't been impressed with Smlz in these fights. I don't think he's been getting a huge amount of damage off. I think it has been BiuBiu, Beishang, and Shanks that have actually been the real carries for these engages. So again, we're kind of seeing with Smlz all the resources he has, I think he could have done more.
Could have done more. Well, Beishang might have to use his ultimate to get himself out. There it is. And Moonlight Vigil doesn't really do anything when you're a 1.5 item Aphelios. So Cannon Barrage is going to be used to try and dissuade everyone away from defending this turret. And the base is almost certainly to be broken open. Smlz very tentative to walk forward as Creme has to use the Spirit Rush to make sure he doesn't get hit by the Dredge line. Now the inhibitor goes down. You've got waves in top. You've got a wave coming in mid as well. Creme really dancing with death right now, trying to just bait anyone in, seeing if he can get as much damage as he possibly can. But OMG get what they want, and they get themselves out.
Yeah, WE using nicely that Baron to actually get that bot lane inhibitor, and with the minute until the dragon, that should create a bit of pressure on this bot side that they can use to their advantage. Aki trying to be the secret agent here. I was going to say I thought he was going to try and get some... Oh, he actually does place a ward on the way out. But I wasn't sure if he was actually going to try and just stick around this bot side jungle for the next 45 seconds until Dragon comes up, maybe look for an angle of attack on towards Smlz. But honestly, looking at BiuBiu with the 3.5 items that he's picked up, the damage that Shanks able to churn out as well onto Cold,
Yeah,
they are your issues as well.
Yeah, Cold is dead. There's not really a lot else to talk about there as he just ends up falling down, and this hasn't been a great game for the bot lane of OMG. We talked about how OMG like to focus towards that top side, but the Abel and Cold kind of really hemorrhaging gold and resources on that bot lane really has not helped them whatsoever. And honestly, just WE have just completely punished them in every sense of the word. And now with bot lane pushing in with supers, you've got yourself mid and top to try and deal with here as OMG. WE could just take this one nice and slow. They don't have to overcommit to this.
Yeah, and WE are doing exactly that. They're just going to see if they can land a couple of shots with Smlz having the rapid fire cannon and moving back and forth between the lanes. I will say, I would rather that they kept BiuBiu in one lane rather than having him kind of group up with the team, but it works here.
Here we go. They're going to try and catch out Smlz, but it just puts them closer to the fight. Your damage is dead. There's nothing else for you to do. The Cannon Barrage is just too hard to fight around, and that's going to be WE taking game one, and honestly looking very convincing while doing it.
Yeah, and they got the wave there as well. Going to be able to finish this one out. This was a nice game from WE, and I have to say again, like, I think Shanks, the first pick of the side, is working out great for him. Wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see this a little bit more often. And Beishang as well, bringing out the Volibear that we've been missing for a while, and finding so much success on that.
Yeah, Aki's still on the flank, by the way, in case you were wondering. Still looking to see if he can find that ultimate kick of days. But it isn't to be. WE in their home arena will pick up the win. And this, if they can continue this momentum, this is a positive sign for them. Maybe, just maybe, taking their first series win of Summer Split.
Now they just have to try and keep that coming into game number 2. I think Beishang was the massive difference maker in this game.
Oh, huge.
His early control towards both bot and that early mid gank gave everything that WE wanted. Like Shanks getting ahead, your bot side getting ahead. Then they were able to use Smlz to get a bunch of these turret plates down. And again, when we got in towards fights, like Beishang and Shanks were on the exact same page at all points in time. Consistently diving onto Abel, making sure they're the real threats in the fight, and being able to carry this game. Like, that was such a good performance from the mid jungle of WE.
Yeah, it really, really was. And honestly, I think that a lot of positives to bring from it. And finally, we see them get their early game leads and continue it on with it. They didn't throw it away. They didn't... Fair enough, there were 1 or 2 moments where you're like, okay, that's not great. But they kept it consistent. And honestly, I think with the meta, specifically in LPL, moving back towards, like you mentioned, the Jinx and the Aphelios and Champs, so like having the Jinx, having that just very safe long-range carry for Smlz. Fair enough, he's not doing an absolute boatload of damage, but he is going to be able to keep himself safe and not hemorrhage.
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of surprised that we got this Aphelios and Jinx coming through a bit more, because there was like Senna left open available, who I actually think is probably one of the strongest AD carries in the patch at the moment. We still saw like the Kalista was banned away, so to see the Aphelios come through was a bit of a surprise to me. I think the Jinx is just a nice response, but I'd be surprised if we get it coming into game number 2. You kind of see Abel didn't look that convincing on it, and I honestly believe that when we start to see the more mid-game focused style from OMG pay dividends more, that'll be where they really shine. I think the biggest issue for OMG in this one as well was just that Aki had absolutely no presence in the early stages, because Beishang ended up counter-picking with the Volibear. Lee Sin just can't really do that much. Even when you try to play through your mid-jungle, like Shanks and Beishang actually have a great turn potential in a counter-gank situation, so you end up in a position where OMG just can't play towards any of their lanes, and WE do a really good job of capitalizing on that.
Very dark image, isn't it? Like, just in general. Like the actual like image itself just looks very dark. I might have to brighten that one up just a little bit. But there we go. A little bit brighter, a little bit more vibrant coming in for us here. But yeah, honestly, I think Shanji tried his very best on the side of OMG. I think WE just really neutralized him. And like you said, having the Gangplank very safe with the things like the Gwen and the Gnar taken off the board by OMG. WE said, cool, like, we don't really have anything that's going to have super kill threat on him, at least something that's not currently in the meta, and that's why they just felt so confident to blind this, saying, look, there's not really much else you can go for here. The Aatrox is fine. It didn't do terrible in lane whatsoever, but it just didn't have the same impact. The Cannon Barrage is always going to have more.
Yeah, I think Gangplank probably the most underrated pick on the patch. The fact that we don't see it more often is super surprising to me. He has an insanely high win rate. He does incredibly well into most matchups, and does incredibly well against most of the AD carries that we have in the patch as well. I mean, Senna struggles against them, Aphelios struggles against them, Kalista massively struggles against them. Gangplank, I think, is one of the most underutilized picks that we have in the patch, and I think you're starting to see with all the damage he was able to churn out there is fantastic. Plus, again, just wanted to highlight, I was very, again, kind of disappointed with Smlz's damage output. When you look at how far ahead he was, he should have been 35 to 36% of the team's damage, but a large portion of their damage percentage was still coming from Shanks and BiuBiu.
Well, we'll see if WE are able